Street Fighter may be a franchise famous for its fantastic fighting game mechanics, but there is no doubt that the game's success has been partially down to their colourful cast of playable characters, with the latest entry in the series, Street Fighter 6, being no different. Speaking of which, some amongst the lineup have stood the test of time and gone on to become some of the most beloved fighters ever, whereas others simply have not. When it comes to the latter category, F.A.N.G from Street Fighter V fits this group absolutely perfectly. In spite of holding an important role in the title's plot, this lanky assassin is actively despised by a large chunk of the player base, which means it is of no surprise that as of Street Fighter VI, they appear to have replaced him with a sexier and arguably even more disturbing waifu. In today's double history lesson, not only are we going to delve into the past of this unpopular fighter, but also look at everything we know about his creepy lady successor. So with all of this said, hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. This is the story of F.A.N.G and Aki, and how they made the worst Street Fighter a woman. Yeah. A whole year prior to Street Fighter VI's release, a Capcom leak would allow gamers to learn about the game's entire roster, 12 months before the game even hit store shelves. Not only the soon-to-be playable lineup, but even the first wave of DLC characters. Amongst the future DLC fighters, we would be introduced to Aki, a sinister-looking female figure who clearly had a lot of design similarities with Street Fighter V's villain, F.A.N.G. While we would wait with eager anticipation to learn more about this fighter, that day finally came at EVO 2023. On this day, Capcom would show us footage of Aki, the first female fighter for the franchise, who seems to be even more deranged than Juri. In the trailer, she even goes as far to creepily force a substance into the avatar's mouth that appears to intoxicate them. Despite instant calls from the player base that they can fix her, Aki has become the most terrifying woman in the franchise's history. But before we dig more into learning about her, we first have to look back to the maligned male fighter she appears to have been based on. So with that said, let's sink our fangs into F.A.N.G. Prior to his infamous run in Street Fighter V, what may surprise you is that the history of F.A.N.G goes back further than just that, all the way back to 1996 in fact. Half a decade removed from the grand world-changing debut of Street Fighter II, its true sequel Street Fighter III was finally in development. If you are familiar with the game, one of its key marketing points was to provide an entire new generation of fighters. But what is perhaps even more interesting is that the characters that would show up in the game are completely different ones than those that can be seen in early design documents. Just last year we were fortunate enough to be shown early character concepts from a collection of these combatants, who didn't quite make the cut. And amongst these mysterious misser-outers is a fighter who very clearly seems to be F.A.N.G. Nearly 2 whole decades prior to his in-game debut, the Street Fighter III design documentation shows a tall, skinny assassin, with them even having the same poison hand weapon that F.A.N.G would later wear in Street Fighter V. So after spending 19 years on the cutting room floor, let's look at the first glimpse the world would get of this character via his Street Fighter V character reveal trailer from December 2015. Yeah!
Oh my! It looks like you're already choking. Two minutes. I'll finish you in 2 minutes.
F.A.N.G wins.
The first thing that many players would note after watching this trailer was simply how weird this character looked, with him carrying himself with a sort of nerdy and flamboyant demeanour, which separated him from previous Street Fighter villains. This crazy oddball significance would also immediately become apparent simply from looking at the stage he was fighting on, as the backdrop reveals giant statues of 4 characters: M. Bison, Balrog, Vega and F.A.N.G. instantly indicating that F.A.N.G had likely replaced Sagat as M. Bison's second-in-command at Shadaloo. We were instantly offered the opportunity to learn more about this weird character thanks to combo fiend Peter Rosas' Capcom Unity blog post. Here it would outline that F.A.N.G, the final character of Street Fighter V starting roster, finally emerges from the shadows to take his self-proclaimed spot as the second-in-command of Shadaloo. F.A.N.G is an assassin whose unique poison attacks leave him second only to M. Bison himself. Besides overseeing Shadaloo's operations, his true passion comes from the evil experiments conducted within Shadaloo's research facilities. F.A.N.G introduces the series' first mechanic, poison. Whenever his poison attacks connect, they continuously deal damage to the opponent's life bar until he gets hit or the poison runs its course. F.A.N.G's sinister long-range attacks and slippery movements paired with his ability to poison will leave his opponents feeling ill. The trailer paired with a blog would introduce us to both his V-skill and V-trigger. His V-skill, known as the Nisho Doku, sees him send out a slow-moving poison-filled projectile. If it makes contact with the opponent, it will begin to slowly deal damage. As for his V-trigger, known as the Doku Nomu, the blog refers to it as the ultimate defense. The maneuver sees F.A.N.G emit a poisonous cloud around his body that constantly deals damage to the opponent as long as they're near him. The blog would promise that players who enjoy tricky mix-ups and outsmarting their opponents will definitely have a blast with F.A.N.G in Street Fighter V. Another interesting fact regarding F.A.N.G is that it is said that F.A.N.G's final design was created with his voice actor in mind. Voiced by Shigeru Chiba, Chiba is known for voicing well-known cruel and eccentric characters such as the terrifying Kefka, who first became famous in Final Fantasy VI, Buggy the Clown from One Piece, and the spineless Emperor Pilaf from the classic Dragon Ball series. Others have also noted that the fact he is obsessed and fascinated with the number 2, with him stating he will finish off his opponents in 2 minutes in the trailer, it is likely a reference to Fist of the North Star. Fist of the North Star features a minor antagonist known as Alf, who is boastful of claiming victories under 2 minutes, who strikes opponents with a poison-laced cape. Building on this obsession with number 2 and being M. Bison's number 2, we can acknowledge that this strange tall man is just the Street Fighter franchise's equivalent of Dwight Schrute. After all, he is an assistant to the regional manager of Shadaloo, and is certainly a bit strange and creepy. When you realise he is just Dwight Schrute in Street Fighter, you can start to see why this character doesn't really fit into the established universe very well, and why many do not like him. Through F.A.N.G's character story in Street Fighter V, we would learn that F.A.N.G would first encounter M. Bison on a mission to assassinate him. F.A.N.G, alongside others who belong to the same assassin's group as him, known as the Guhao, set out to bring an end to M. Bison together. The Guhao, in the Street Fighter universe, were one of Asia's largest crime cartels, with F.A.N.G serving as their newly inducted leader. The sinister Guhao regularly kidnapped children and trained them as assassins, and had them serve in their organisation. F.A.N.G, originally one of these children himself, was forced to learn what is known as the Way of the Poison Hand. The morally corrupt training involves exposing these children to poison within controlled environments, with those who survive eventually not only becoming immune to the poison, but also turning the natural poison in their bodies into a weapon. Growing up watching other children around him dying through this process, F.A.N.G would emerge as one of this cartel's strongest ever users of the poison hand. During his initial training period, he along with 3 others would survive, and the foursome would gain headway together in the Asian criminal underworld. But despite their closeness, legend has it that F.A.N.G was instructed to kill them all to prove his loyalty to the Guhao way. So, if F.A.N.G was part of this dreadful organisation, with instructions to eliminate M. Bison, then that raises the question, how did the pairing end up on the same side? Where apparently in order to take him out, F.A.N.G along with his fellow assassins would first land a job as Bison's guards. The group would surprise attack the dictator, only for M. Bison with his psycho power appearing not only immune to their poison, but he would easily defeat them all too. Bison would coldly slaughter most of the group, but refusing to die, F.A.N.G would keep fighting. Noticing F.A.N.G was more powerful than the others, after F.A.N.G surrendered, M. Bison chose to spare F.A.N.G's life. He would inform F.A.N.G that he does not expect loyalty, but he does expect power and for him to become of use to Shadaloo. This incident would result in F.A.N.G gaining an intense respect toward M. Bison, admiring his immense power and wisdom. In fact, ultimately the pair would end up hitting it off rather well, with M. Bison eventually making him one of the 4 Heavenly Kings, and allowing F.A.N.G to head up Shadaloo's research and administrative operations. Speaking of which, it is said that F.A.N.G is the evil mastermind behind A.K.I and the Dolls project, as well as playing a crucial role within Operation Chains, the threat to the world that emerged in Street Fighter V's all-encompassing story known as A Shadow Falls. In A Shadow Falls, the narrative revolves around F.A.N.G's scheme to achieve global domination on behalf of M. Bison and the sinister organisation Shadaloo. Through the utilisation of 7 massive fabricated celestial bodies called Black Moons, alongside the coercion of abducted researchers and skilled hackers, Operation Chains materialises as F.A.N.G's strategy to sow widespread fear and amplify M. Bison's power to an impregnable level. We first encounter F.A.N.G in the story doing what he does best, killing. F.A.N.G takes out a hacker friend of Rashid, who he catches apparently betraying his beloved M. Bison. To initiate Operation Chain, specific keys are essential to control the Black Moons. Unfortunately, Rashid's hacker friend's actions thwarted their possession, resulting in F.A.N.G obtaining and dispersing them across the globe. His initial success came when he intercepted Rashid's infiltration of a Shadaloo facility, defeating him and seizing a key fragment. Using this piece, F.A.N.G triggered one of the moons, causing a catastrophic electromagnetic pulse that paralysed New York. Joined by other Shadaloo leaders, he revelled in this triumph, with his conceit causing annoyance amongst his associates. F.A.N.G's involvement in recalibrating the dolls is soon unveiled too, with him disclosing Operation Chain's ultimate aim: to spread global fear and hopelessness, nourishing M. Bison's psycho power through amplified negative emotions. Demonstrating his agenda, F.A.N.G sets Balrog and Vega against 2 Shadaloo soldiers empowered by psycho power. However, as the World Warriors assail M. Bison, F.A.N.G's plans face opposition. While eager to chase the attackers, Bison restrains him. Past this point in his relentless pursuit of the scattered fragments, F.A.N.G's journey leads him to Brazil. His objective: locate Laura in possession of yet another piece. Unveiling a surprise twist, he learns that the artifact was entrusted to her younger sibling Sean. Employing intimidation tactics, F.A.N.G pressures Sean to relinquish the fragment, only to be abruptly hurled aside by the unexpected intervention of Ken Masters, who safeguards Sean. Undeterred by this setback, F.A.N.G prepares to resume the confrontation, but his attention is diverted when one of his subordinates informs him of an intrusion into Shadaloo's stronghold. Reacting swiftly to this alarming news, F.A.N.G retreats by deploying his characteristic poison clouds and heads back to address the breach in Shadaloo's defences. Upon arriving back at the headquarters, F.A.N.G crosses paths with both Chun-Li and Karin, their shared objective being the disruption of the Black Moon's operation. As Karin holds F.A.N.G at bay, granting Chun-Li the opportunity to deactivate the program, he delivers a full warning. A fail-safe plan is primed for activation, which is completely impervious to interruption. In a tense encounter, he coerces hacker F.A.N.G into initiating the descent protocol for the Black Moons. This perilous course would trigger a collision with Earth, resulting in catastrophic casualties worldwide. Amidst this tumultuous sequence, Nekali materialises, eliciting F.A.N.G's eagerness for combat. However, Bison intervenes, assuring F.A.N.G that their machinations are proceeding as planned, and he will personally engage Nekali. As Bison triumphs over Nekali, F.A.N.G seizes the opportunity to assail Bison, compelling Nekali to retreat into an inky form of residue. As the World Warriors mount their ultimate assault on the Shadaloo base, F.A.N.G remains a steadfast presence while Bison steadily amplifies his psycho power. In a critical turn, he triggers a self-destruct sequence for the dolls, as their defeat becomes apparent on the battlefield. Amid the turmoil, Rashid covertly infiltrates the command center, exploiting a loophole devised by his absent hacker associate to halt Operation Chains. This unexpected setback fuels F.A.N.G's ire, inciting him to a seething fury. In a heated exchange, F.A.N.G confesses to the slaying of Rashid's friend, igniting Rashid's anger to a boiling point. The ensuing altercation finds F.A.N.G briefly staggered before he retaliates, incapacitating Rashid with a venomous strike from behind. Throughout their confrontation, Rashid manages to disable a device through which Fang exerts control over the dolls. Despite this setback, Fang persists in his pursuit of Operation Chains until he is confronted by Mars, one of the dolls who has wrestled back control over herself. Emerging triumphant in this clash, Fang readies to deliver a fatal blow to Mars, only to be thwarted as Rashid rebounds and distracts him with a hurled chess piece. In that pivotal moment, Mars lunges at Fang, propelling them both to the precipice of a precipitous drop, a desperate bid to claim their lives and Fang's demise. Gripping on tenuously, Fang's hold falters, culminating in their plunge into the reactor of the control room, where Fang laments his untimely fate, professing his youthfulness as they tumble to their apparent demise. Surviving by a thread after Mars' sacrificial act, Fang staggers down to the base's lower level. Fueled by resentment and vexation, he directs his ire at F.A.N.G, holding her accountable for potentially divulging the means to thwart his designs. This accusation sparks Chun-Li's defense of the young girl against Fang's weakened and exasperated state. However, before he can reach M. Bison's side, his energy wanes and he succumbs to unconsciousness. Following Ryu's triumph over Bison, Fang emerges to witness his lord's dissipation in a brilliant azure radiance. In a poignant moment, his anguished cry reverberates as the crumbling base surrounds him. While he vanishes from view thereafter, the narrative implies his demise alongside Bison. Other individual character stories would further clue us in and give us more information about him. For example, in Cammy's story, he recognises her by her former codename Killer Bee, and in Vega's story, Fang brags about being able to increase the doll's combat power. With Fang being far from a physically attractive person, Vega sees Fang as pathetic and sees his plans as ugly too. In fact, the two are so different from one another, they often get into fights against each other. Vega is not the only M. Bison loyalist who Fang clashes with, as he also has problems with Balrog. Fang learns that Balrog has been raising one of M. Bison's replacement bodies, Ed, like a son, so thus accuses him of betraying Shadaloo, causing them to fight as well. So, with all the facts we have raised so far, perhaps you are beginning to build up a better picture regarding why many players do not like this guy. Let's be honest, he has hardly been designed to be the personification of cool. I would actually go as far as to say the way that Fang has been modelled paired with his story appearances have made him one of the most deliberately dislikable characters that has ever been implemented into the Street Fighter universe. He proper has that snivelling, sneaky, chicken shit hill vibe going for him. This, in my opinion, makes him a well-written character with certainly a lot more depth than 95% of Street Fighter characters. But the problem is, he is so strange and dislikable, it is easy to see why the average gamer would not want to play as him. A further problem is, though, I feel that perhaps he is such an ugly character with little in the way of redeeming personality features, that he almost has a bit of that X-Pac heat going on for him. He is a purposely annoying character who is arguably at the point of being too annoying, so make sure you let me know how you feel about him in the comment section. Away from the character's art direction itself, being a charged character, he is also tough to use for more casual fighting game players. While on the subject of his combat abilities, when his poisonous attacks find their mark, they persistently inflict harm upon the opponent's life gauge until either he's struck or the poison runs its course. Coupled with his ability to administer poison, Fang possesses the capacity for long-reaching assaults and evasive maneuvers. However, Fang's individual attack potency is rather modest, and his poison on its own cannot triumph over adversaries, it merely diminishes their health. Employing his cunning projectiles coupled with his limited stamina and characteristics akin to a charge-based character, Fang embodies a technical and intricate playstyle, demanding considerable mastery and thus not recommended for the novice player. When executing his critical art, he propels the opponent into the air and administers harm by undulating his sludge-coated arms in a manner resembling a bird's wing beats. Colloquially known as his Flappy Bird attack, it is an odd maneuver, offering up a perfect display showing why Fang isn't exactly invited to many parties. So, stringing everything we know today together, is this all enough information to conclusively link Fang and Aki from Street Fighter 6 together as assassins with the same poison hand training? Well, mostly, especially considering we can see how similar they are just from watching her trailer. But further to all of this, we can learn even more about the potential link between the two due to events that occurred in between Street Fighter V and 6. While it very much looked like Fang died alongside M. Bison, remarkably he would survive that day. Fortunately for us, the Shadaloo Research Institute will provide official Street Fighter V supplementary story material that would fill us in on what would happen in Fang's life next. In this side story that occurs after Street Fighter V known as Toxicity, we learn that Fang ends up somewhere in China. We learn here that Fang in the past lived under many different aliases, with he himself not even being able to remember his real name, still going by the name of Fang in the story. The story notes that, looking out from behind his sunglasses with his cold eyes, he saw the city welcoming the new year. It was a new area of rapid growth and development, and as such it attracted those looking to make money in the business world. Fang's train of thought is interrupted as a man coming from the opposite direction nearly bumped into him. Fang's natural instinct of killing the man on the spot was swayed as he looked up to see a drunken fellow who smelled of alcohol more strongly than a brewery. The red-faced man slurred his speech as he talked. Giving Fang a hearty pat on the shoulder, he staggered past into the distance. The man had no idea who he had just bumped into, and perhaps ignorance was bliss. Fang let the man pass. He too had been drinking, but for completely different reasons. Shadaloo was destroyed, Bison fell, and with him his ambitions vanished. With his leader gone, the emptiness in Fang's life returned. However, Fang wasn't entirely convinced that Lord Bison was truly dead. Hoping to revive Shadaloo, Fang visited dark companies he'd had dealings with in the past, hoping to gain resources. He had once controlled these companies through power, but now a different approach was needed, to sit down and have a talk over drinks. Fang had finished in one such meeting. Though the drinks flowed freely, Fang was unaffected. A side effect of his unparalleled resistance to poison, there was no amount of alcohol in the world that could influence Fang in any way. Upon hearing a voice, Fang stopped. A young woman stood in a small dark corner of one of the city streets. Similar to an assassin, she was a worker in one of the other oldest trades in human history. It was a scene familiar throughout the world. Though it was illegal, it was not rare to see such women using the streets for their trade. You got some cash? Would you like a massage? The woman glanced up at Fang. She looked poor, her dress clinging onto her wiry frame. She smiled, an insecure and unpracticed smile spread across her face, devoid of makeup. She gave off the impression of an amateur, a woman who felt out of place standing on the streets. Fang glared back at her, but ultimately decided to accept her offer. He wasn't drunk, and another side effect of the poison was that he no longer felt that sort of animalistic desire. However, there was something about this woman that intrigued him. Those pure black eyes that stared directly at him, it reminded him of eyes he'd seen before, someone he'd long since forgotten. The woman led him through the streets to a different part of town, away from the modern buildings. She led him into a rotting building. The floor had been sectioned off with sheets that served as walls. She brought him to one such partition, which was apparently her workspace. In the dim light, and a cheap bed and some off-coloured white sheets had been thrown together. The entire floor smelled awful. You just couldn't stand there all night. The woman smiled at Fang, who had not moved an inch since entering the room. Her sweet voice served as a stark contrast to the wretched state of the room. It was the voice of a cunning girl who knew what her customers wanted, a voice that highlighted her unique charms, her youth. An actress who was intimately acquainted with the situation and could put on the performance that was necessary. Fang stared at her with cold eyes. She returned his gaze, and in her eyes Fang could see the truth behind her saccharine voice. Behind her youthful, beautiful looks, there was also strength. A strength that was the same as his poison. Her eyes were the same as his were. "Hey mister!" The woman's voice brought Fang back to reality. She removed her dress while continuing to stare at him. Her pale skin seemed to shine in the poorly lit room. She slowly approached one step at a time while Fang continued to be motionless. As she closed in, the shadow of a person could be seen moving among the curtain walls. "Haha, gotcha!" A young man emerged, holding a smartphone, which was aimed at Fang. "Sorry Pops, but I got everything I need." The man was also young, as if he could be the woman's older brother. He smiled, a smile filled with youthful evil. "I don't have to tell you this kind of thing is illegal, right?" He waved the phone defiantly at Fang. so I could plaster this all over the web, or maybe just take it straight to the authorities. What do you think, Pops? Blackmail. It wasn't a bad plan, but the two had made a fatal mistake in their target. Even if the man took his evidence to the authorities, it wouldn't matter. Fang wouldn't show up on any database. To the world, he was a man who did not exist. Ha! Fang let out a small laugh. If he was so inclined, he could kill the both of them before they even had time to scream. His poison didn't just kill, it could erase a person, even their bones, in a matter of seconds. However, he didn't. He had other plans for this cheeky young man. The mood changed suddenly, as if by sleight of hand. Fang had removed his hands from his pockets before anyone had noticed, and was holding a large stack of money bills in one hand and a dagger in the other. He casually threw both down on the floor. "Pick one," Fang's voice sounded out after the clatter of the metal dagger hitting the floor died down. The poor siblings had never seen that much money before. It was more than enough for them to live off for a whole year, with enough left over for luxuries. However, the dagger, ancient yet with a suspicious shine, also had its charms. As a work of art alone, it was worth far more than the stack of money. The stack of money was soaked in poison. It was a slow-acting poison that would slowly kill whoever came into contact with it. If a man took the dagger, it meant that he had good judgment. Fang wouldn't kill him on the spot, just cut off his hands and let him go. And if the siblings chose neither and ran away, Fang would let them go. She reached out to the dagger, or rather seemed involuntarily drawn to it. Fang's fingers twitched. However, her hand stopped just before reaching the dagger. "Oh, so it's the dagger you want then?" Fang asked coolly. "No," she paused, and then shook her head again. "I cannot take this sword with my hands, and I don't need your money, but there is something I want to ask you. Could you please teach me what the characters written here are?" Tears shone in the woman's eyes. Fang casually waved his hand, and in an instant, the tip of the blade pressed against the woman's pale chest. "Are you serious?" The woman nods deep within her eyes. Fang could see a strength like poison. No, Fang had been mistaken. He thought her to have the same eyes as his brothers, but that was wrong. The woman had met his gaze and swallowed it up in a bottomless pool of poison. It was a strength he'd never seen before, not within himself or his brothers. "If you really want to know what these characters mean, then I will teach you." The meaning behind his words was that the woman would have to abandon everything. Her name, her life as she knew it, discard them all and become an assassin. The woman said yes, and Fang waved his hand again, and the dagger was gone, as if he'd never been there in the first place. He spoke softly to the girl, who was still on her knees. "Phantom, from now on, this is what you will be called." The woman nodded. This was her choice, to throw away her name and live as a ghost. As she stood, Fang had already spun around and was walking away. The side story tale ends, concluding poetically that a man walked into the darkness of a city. He was an assassin, a man without a name. His first job as a professional was to kill 3 other assassins. They were strong, skilled in the art of poison. He got the job done. The man walked on, and behind him, a young woman began to follow. Their 2 shadows disappeared into the darkness. But from seeing Aki emerge in Street Fighter 6, it seems that at least one of these individuals appears to have come out of the shadows once more. Holding this Street Fighter 5 side story in mind, it's awesome to see that they conceived the idea of introducing Aki to the franchise quite some time ago, even coming up with this huge backstory regarding how she fits into the greater narrative. Fang may have been an annoying looking character with a completely bizarre design, so maybe replacing him with a waifu is what is needed to make a poison assassin in Street Fighter finally appreciated. After all, it already worked for the franchise turning Seth into a waifu, so why not Fang as well? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, you may want to go back and check out my Seth one too. Cheerio!